I don't know what to say about this place, except that I don't like it at all. It is strange and dead. And I would say that I'm ready to give feedback on it, which is why this seems like the perfect place to talk about why you should normalize empowering playtesters to call the playtest early when they're ready to give feedback. I think this comes from a place of believing that all the activities we participate in are just like continual acts of consent. So if at some point a playtester is absolutely fed up with the experience and they don't want to do it anymore, we don't have a right to, force them to do that. They absolutely should feel empowered to be like, you know what, I've seen enough of the game and I'm ready to get feedback and I would like to move on from this experience. And I think that we should normalize that as just a thing that we allow people to do when they don't want to do something anymore, we don't make them. I think generally it's not necessary to play your games all the way to the end. So if a playtester has played a few rounds, they probably at least have some thoughts on your game, where they're having fun, where they're not having fun, where they're seeing problems. When I think about the differences between design groups that don't have this and do have this, I think what you see often with game design groups where the sort of expectation and the norm is that you always play the game to completion is designers bringing the same game over and over again and being really attached to that game. And I think what you see from design groups where the norm and expectation is maybe I won't play my whole game because playtesters will call for feedback is that designers start to approach their games more critically and they're more receptive to feedback. It becomes sort of baked into the norms of the group that we don't expect to play games all the way to the end because we're here to critique them. We are not here just to casually play them. Even if it's pretty rare that someone will actually call for feedback early, the fact that it does and can happen just changes the group. The other thing that's cool about this is I feel like as designers, we're always kind of looking for those metrics that tell us our game is ready to move forward. For some of us, that might be like it's time to pitch the game. For others, it might be it's time to like go to Kickstarter or just like bring it to the public or whatever that looks like to you. And one of the metrics that you can use if you're in a group that's professional like this is how often do people call for feedback early in my game? Did people call for feedback early in the last 2 weeks? No? Check mark. Let's move on. So I know some of you are probably like, Phil, I don't know how I could possibly do this tactfully in my group. Or like, especially at a proto where I just don't know people. I want to give credit to Emma Larkins, who basically sort of showed me the tactful way to do this and the way to do it that shows that you actually care about the game and you want to see it succeed and you want to make sure that you're not doing the designer a disservice by calling for feedback early. If she feels like she's ready to give feedback, she'll ask the designer, hey, is there anything in this game we haven't seen yet? Just to make sure that we have actually experienced the entire game. And if there is something we haven't seen, then maybe we'll like fast forward to that point in the game, or we could sort of like purposely interact with that. Like if the designer's like, oh yeah, no one's gotten into a combat yet, like you could just be like, all right, I'm going to force combat on my next turn. But once I've seen that, I'm ready to go to feedback. And of course, if the answer is no, you've pretty much seen the whole game, then a really good way to do it without just like immediately cutting anything off, like don't just say, hey, I'm ready to go to feedback, let's end the game right now. But a pretty polite way to do it is just like, hey, at the end of this round, I think I'm ready to move to feedback. So I think this approach of asking, hey, is there anything I haven't seen yet, does a few things. It shows the designer that you care about seeing the complete game. You care about experiencing the complete game, and you don't want to give feedback before you have done that. And I think that's really important, and I think it shows professionalism, and it shows kindness. It also acknowledges, hey, I'm not just calling for it right this second. we can finish the round. Maybe I'll have just a few different impressions by the end of the round. And ultimately, like, our goal isn't to just cut games short for the purpose of cutting games short, but there is like a point at which you kind of know what your feelings are about the game, and it's time to move on. All right, so when should you not do this? Well, you should definitely not be calling for feedback if you're just trying to rush through games so that you can get to your game faster. That is super uncool. You should not go into a playtest in a genre you know you don't like with the idea that you'll just call feedback early because you don't like that genre. That's not cool either. I think, you know, along with this power, you say, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. We're going to go into playtests with every intention of giving it an honest and critical eye for as long as we're still like gathering ideas about the game. And only really when we get to the point where we're like, you know what, I've seen enough. I think the game's kind of broken anyway. It's pretty early in the design process, or, you know, whatever the issues are that are making it just like a grind or not fun. Then at that point, be like, all right, you know what? I think I've seen enough. Something else I want to stress is that you're not always calling feedback early on games you don't like. I've definitely had feedback called on me early by playtesters who were like, I'm not calling this because I don't like it. I'm actually really having fun, but we only have X time tonight and we should probably move on to other games. And I've done the same thing. I've been like, hey, I'm ready to give feedback. I am having fun and I'm happy to continue, but I could give feedback if everyone else is. And that's another way you can kind of do these things politely. A playtesting group that adopts this mentality that you can call for feedback whenever stops being that casual group that just gets together to play games and shifts into a group that comes together with specific goals in mind to make their games better, to push them forward. This is Board Game Bike from the Great Salt Lake that I don't think is that great. It's more like a desolate wasteland of bugs, and I saw one bird. Thanks for watching my videos. It's been fun hanging out and talking board game design and philosophy with everyone, and I hope to see you soon and play some games. Peace. I'm about to take my first steps into whatever this sludge is. Oh my God, there's bugs everywhere. Man, it smells bad here. I am not a fan of Salt Lake. I mean, it's clear, which is cool. Maybe that's part of the problem. It just doesn't move. It's very still, and I don't like that. I want my salt water to move. My ankle hurts going uphill. It was definitely popping the other day. So at this point, I'm just hoping to get to the Pacific Ocean and get to some like salt water that I'll be excited about.